What's up, everybody? Derek Anderson, the DA. And lately I've been talking a lot about Hollywood brands for all of these big major franchises and the kind of damage that has been taken by these brands because these clowns in Hollywood don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to handle them. They've all just suffered major brand damage. And if you sit back and think about it, out of all the brands that have suffered the most, that have taken the biggest hits, you got Marvel, DC, etc., Star Wars has got to be the biggest one. Star Wars, Lucasfilm in general, really. The Lucasfilm brand has taken major hits, not just with Star Wars, but with Willow, with Indiana Jones that's about to come up. Major hits to the brand. 100% complete damage. It's to the point now where you can't trust anything that comes out of this studio. It doesn't matter what it is, You saw what happened with Andor, a widely acclaimed series. Critics loved it. Fans loved it. How did it do in the ratings? It didn't do anything in the ratings. Hardly anybody watched it when it dropped. I think people have been picking it up a little bit here and there along the way. But back when it came out, nobody watched it. And people had to be convinced and told, no, it's really good. Go and check it. That's directly related to how bad Star Wars brand has been damaged by this company, Lucasfilm, and specifically, of course, the president, Kathleen Kennedy. And one of the reasons why this is the case is because Kathleen shows just complete contempt for the fans, or it's either contempt or it's ignorance of what the fans are actually looking for, or it's hubris, it's sheer hubris, or maybe all three, I don't know. But you can see it in this headline on Bounding into Comics. Kathleen Kennedy says new films will move Star Wars past George Lucas's original vision, will introduce new characters, and start with something fresh. Look, who are you fooling, Kathleen? You've moved past George Lucas's original vision a long, long time ago. And it's like amazing that she's saying this. She has absolutely no idea what she's doing or what she's done to this franchise. And listen, for everybody that says, oh, Kathleen Kennedy has been a success. Kathleen Kennedy made $3 billion movies or $4 billion movies. Let me show you something. Yeah, this is the sequel trilogy. And this is what each sequel trilogy film did in the box office. Folks, this is the very definition of diminishing returns. From the first film to the last film, you're talking about a 50% reduction in the box office. This would be unacceptable anywhere in corporate America, anywhere you want to look. This kind of return, after you just make a huge splash, obviously we're going to see some of the fans fall off just a little bit. But I mean, you're talking about almost $1 billion less than the original. I mean, that's a lot of money that this chick has left on the table. And that's the reason why everybody is saying, why is she still here? It's nothing but diminishing returns with Kathleen Kennedy. Only people that have some sort of a silly agenda or they're just, caping for Kathleen for some stupid reason can't see this. Those are the only people that can't see what this woman has done to the Star Wars brand and to the Star Wars franchise. This is evidence of brand damage. I don't care if the last film made $1 billion. It should have made at least maybe 1.5 or something like that to finish off the entire trilogy. Give me a break. Like, that's ridiculous. You cannot justify that sort of diminishing returns by simply saying, well, they all made $1 billion. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into this article and let's see what she's talking about. So it says here, Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy continued to provide more details about the upcoming Rey-centric Star Wars film and revealed it will move past George Lucas's original vision for the series in order to introduce something fresh. Speaking with Games Radar, Kennedy discussed the upcoming Rey film, which she has been calling the New Jedi Order in previous interviews, telling the outlet, I think what's always great about Star Wars, it's a big galaxy, and we're coming off what was a major war with the First Order, and now Rey has made a promise to Luke, and that's really the core of where we're going and what this story will be. Kennedy continued, and I think it offers a tremendous opportunity to introduce new characters and start with something fresh because we culminated what George Lucas was creating, and now we take all of that and move it to the next chapter. No, you didn't culminate this at all, okay? What George Lucas created was something special, all right? You have spent the last decade just shoving feminism into Star Wars. That's what you've been doing. The Force is female propaganda, all of that stuff. That's what you've been doing over this past decade, Kathleen. It has been an absolute decade of failure. I mean, the entire idea that you have somehow culminated what George Lucas's creation was. Look, you spent the entire decade deconstructing George Lucas, just pulling them apart, saying how everything that he had set up and originated was, oh, no, this is just all bad stuff, You made all the male heroes bad and weak and insufficient while you're propping up this little Mary Sue chick right here. You know, that's what you did for the past decade. And listen, when you've destroyed something like you've destroyed George Lucas's vision, which you have absolutely destroyed it. And now you're just like, well, we're ready to move on. Let's get on past this. Stop. Okay? There's a couple of things you got to remember. First of all, there's no moving past George Lucas's vision. This is all George Lucas. If you get too far away from George Lucas's original vision, guess what? You're no longer doing Star Wars, which is basically what this has been for the last decade. You have not been doing Star Wars. Outside of a couple of projects here and there, it's been mostly a travesty. That's number one. But number two, in my opinion, you can't move past any of George Lucas's vision until you culminate it, until you complete his vision, which you didn't because you guys decided not to use his treatments and what he wanted to do for 7, 8, and 9. You went in a completely different direction. So in order for you to move past it, which again, let me tell you something. I don't actually have a problem with the idea of making something new. Moving on to something else, okay? Instead of just completely bastardizing what George Lucas created. No, hey, you know what? Culminate what he did and move forward, okay? I don't actually have a problem with opening up a different chapter of Star Wars, doing something different. But you got to fix George's stuff first, okay? You can't just leave George's stuff high and dry. You got to fix it. I want you to imagine for a moment that you got a friend, like a really trusted friend, and he's built like this beautiful home, right? This beautiful, gorgeous house, and he put his whole life into it. It's his life's work. He put his heart, his soul, everything, built it from the foundations all the way up. It's everything to him. And he's going out of town. He's saying, you know what? Hey, I got to take a trip out of town for the weekend. Hey, bro, I want you to come over to my house and just house sit it for me, all right? House sit it, you know, help yourself to anything in the fridge, you know, of course. But, you know, just house sit it, watch it for me, you know. Let the pool guy in. He comes over on Saturday, let him into the backyard or whatever, you know, make sure the lawn is kept up, all of that kind of stuff, you know. And I'll be back on Monday. Just leave everything cool, you know, whatever. But, you know, enjoy it. Hey, man, no problem. I got you, bro. Okay, I got you. I got your house. I'm going to cover that. And then you just leave the place an absolute mess. You utterly destroy it. You know what I'm saying? You drink all the booze out the liquor cabinet. You destroy his furniture. You rip his carpet up, everything, right? Graffiti all on the walls and shit. And then you just like throw a TV through the window and kick the dog on your way out. Like, I want you to imagine you did that kind of damage to his house. And then dude come back on Monday and it's like, what the hell happened to my house? And you like, hey, homie, what's up? No, hey, whoa. Nah, man. There's none of that. What's up, big dog, right now? What happened to my house? You got to get my house in order before we start having any pleasantries whatsoever. You got to fix the damage you've done first before we move past anything, before we get back to copaceticness. You got to fix what you've done here. You can't just leave the house like this. And that's what this chick is doing. She's left us in the hands of this silly Mary Sue character and just completely destroyed Luke Skywalker. No. And it's crazy because I think Jon Favreau really understood this. You got to fix Luke first. That's the first order of business. After The Last Jedi, it's like, whoa, Jon Favreau understood, hey, we got to get Luke back. Okay, we got to fix Luke. Before we run off and do whatever we want to do, all right, we got to fix Luke. We have spent a decade of breaking Star Wars. We probably need to spend another decade of repairing the damage, fixing it, making everything right. That's what needs to happen. Yeah, all right, let's just move on. All right, yeah, oh, shit, we broke the house. Oh, well, hey, see you later. No. That's not the way this works. Do you really think that you are going to be able to just move past this? With whatever little Star Wars fans that might be lingering over. I mean, have you seen the ratings? Have you seen the viewership? Have you been paying attention? I just showed you the diminishing returns from the sequel trilogy. You saw what happened with Solo. Are you joking? Do you really think this chick is delusional if she thinks she could just move on past this and everything's going to be all right? No, it's not. You got to fix Luke. That's the first order of business. Put some respect on his name. And you got to get the male characters. Okay, look, get the male characters some respect. You've been shitting on the male characters for the last decade. You got to get the male characters some respect again. And it doesn't mean that it comes at the expense of the female characters. Nobody said that. Leia works just fine in the original trilogy. Padme worked just fine in the prequels. So there's no reason to say, oh man, you want us to shit all over the females. No, I actually think that Star Wars works very well when you have strong male and female characters. But you don't have to knock the men down to build the women up. That's stupid. That's why I say it's either her contempt or her ignorance of the fans, or maybe it's just pure hubris. It has to be one of them, or it's all of them, because that's the issue. She thinks that she could just walk right past this, whistling past the graveyard like nothing happened. Chick, you gotta be out your mind. Not only did Kennedy reveal this will be the core of the film starring Daisy Ridley as Rey, but she also revealed it will tie into James Mangold's film that will tell the story of Disney's version of the first Jedi. Yeah, I think this is a bad idea too. I think anytime you explain away stuff too much, especially when it comes to the Force, you know, I know there was a lot of books back in the EU that were doing all of that stuff, and that stuff was always like my least favorite material. I want to see you guys just leave the Force kind of like a mystery, and it seems like they're going to go overboard to try to explain what the first Jedi was and all of that kind of crap. Look, people are just going to start writing this crap off as fan fiction. Kennedy explained it was something that Jim Mangold immediately sparked to, and I think it's a really nice compliment to what we're doing with moving into the future with Rey, and then understanding a bit more of where this all came from, because it will be at the heart of creating the new Jedi Order. So to get a real sense of where that might have began with the dawn of the Jedi could be pretty cool. Yeah, again, I've said this in the past, that the reason that they keep going into like these eras like the High Republic, and this guy's going all the way back to the beginning, and then they're saying, yeah, it's going to tie into their stuff. All right, this Daisy Ridley Rey stuff is going to tie into James Mangold's film. I've been saying this, that what they want you to do is they want you to look at Star Wars, the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, and everything that they're doing. They want you to look at it in light of the stuff that they're making now. So now you go back into the past, you do the High Republic, you do this Acolyte series where you're saying, the Jedi aren't that great and this and that. You know, you're shitting on the heroes, and that is supposed to inform the way you view Star Wars moving forward, right? Not us original cast that saw it back in the beginning, but like all of the new fans. They're trashing George Lucas's vision, because you're going to tell us a story about the Jedi that really didn't exist before you made it up, all right? This isn't necessarily George's vision. And that's what they're doing. They're trying to recontextualize everything that happened in the past, you know, with the Star Wars characters, all the way back to the beginning, the very first Jedi. That's what they're going to do. And they're going to recontextualize everything moving forward, so that by the time you get to the original trilogy era and the prequel trilogies and all that, you're going to have to go, well, you know, we got to look at this in light of all the information from the High Republic. That's why they went and told that period, because they want that period to have an influence on the way that you view everything. They won't go 200 years into the future and just tell original stories, because that doesn't tie them to the original Star Wars trilogy like they want it to be. Kennedy previously discussed how these two films were connected during an appearance on the Entertainment Weekly Dagobah Dispatch podcast. She said, we've been talking a lot about going well into the past, and one of the things that's really knitting this all together, obviously, are the Jedi. What happened with the Jedi over time, much like history? How did the Jedi evolve? They were wiped out with Order 66, then they gradually have been coming back. The question that we're going to ask with the new Jedi Order and with Rey is, does the galaxy need them anymore? Do they want them back? You see, this is what I'm saying. They're trying to show the Jedi in some sort of a negative light. That is the goal of this chick, all right? To make the heroes of Star Wars into villains. I've already did a video about that when it came to this Acolyte crap. I'll link that video above if you didn't see that. And that's where they're at with it. That's what they want to do. And to me, it just belies the entire Star Wars saga itself. The Jedis are the heroes, and you're constantly trying to tear your heroes down and make them into villains, and then you scratch your head, gee, I wonder why nobody's watching our stuff anymore. Gee, I wonder what's wrong with our Star Wars. Why did everybody love what George Lucas did and no one seems to like our bullshit? Yeah, I don't know. Gee, it's maybe because you keep doing this crap. Look, they got to fire this chick. They got to get her out of there. She has no good ideas. The people with the good ideas are absolutely being silenced. Because again, I think Favs understood very well what they needed to do. We need to fix Luke. We need to fix Luke. And he did it. And that brought all the fans back. At least he reminded us. He didn't fix him quite yet, but he was going in that direction, I guarantee you. And there was going to be some kind of way where we got that sequel trilogy. It's like, oh, we're going to tell a story, and then we are just going to leapfrog right over that sequel trilogy. We're going to have Luke somehow be rehabilitated, and then we're going to move on, and we're going to get away from that sequel trilogy altogether. That's going to be fan fiction. You can just skip it, you know? That's basically where they need to go at this point. But yeah, the idea that people will just somehow just readily accept whatever you decide to move on with, Kathleen, it's absolute nonsense. Nobody's going to do that. You got to go back. You got to take care. You got to fix George's house first. That's what you got to do. You got to go back, fix George Lucas's house. if you want anybody to buy into this stuff. Otherwise, it's just going to be the same diminishing returns that you have experienced over the last decade, where you have absolutely destroyed this franchise. Anyway, folks, what do y'all think about this situation? You guys go ahead, jump down in the comments, give me your thoughts and opinions on that. Thanks for watching. See you next time.